Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the professions and basically provide you guys with a guide to professions and essentially what you should be doing with professions, both gathering and crafting, and everything you need to know on a fundamental level, as well as some tips and tricks to get you through the tough patches. So let's talk specifically about basically essentially professions on a basic level so that everyone has a simple understanding. When you come into the War Within, if you're someone who's not selected professions before or you're someone who has, there are tons of profession vendors in the Forge Grounds section of the game. So in this area here, this part of the map, you will see a whole bunch of essentially different profession vendors. Now, when you're choosing a profession, essentially you have two options, you have two slots. But for most players, what you'll do is you'll choose a gathering profession, be it mining, herbalism, or skinning, or you will pick a crafting profession, being jewel crafting, blacksmithing, tailoring, leatherworking, and jewel crafting and inscription engineering also as well. Now you don't have to have a gathering and crafting profession, although generally speaking, for most players that only play a singular character or a couple characters, this is generally the way to go. Some people, when they have lots of alts or are playing a lot of characters, will have some characters that are just purely there to mine and herb and gather resources. But generally the consensus is you will have one gathering profession and one crafting profession. So let's talk about the absolute basics of both. So we're going to start with the gathering profession. In this situation it will be mining. So mining, skinning, herbalism, all of them follow the same trend in the War Within. So as you level up your character by collecting various nodes, which you'll find around the War Within, your character will gain skill points in their profession. But you will also gain from time to time knowledge points. Now these are very, very important for a lot of reasons. Firstly, they give you a lot of advantages when it comes to specializations, which we'll talk about shortly. But of course, gathering that knowledge and getting that specialization gives you access to a higher grade of resources. And when you are understanding crafting and gathering, one of the new mechanics is understanding the gathering grade of materials. Materials have different grades. So as you can see here, the quality of the bismuth that I have farmed is relatively small or low in this instance. If I were to upgrade some of my specializations, I will more than likely get higher grade materials, which will assist me in ultimately my crafts, because higher grade materials means more successful crafts. Now when it comes to gathering professions, it is very, very straightforward for them. You gather, you gain skill points. As you gather, you gain knowledge. So when you get to level 25 out of 100 in your skill rank, you'll be able to choose one of 3 trees. You are able to fill out all 3 trees essentially. So you can also take an expanded look at all 3 trees. Each one essentially allows you to improve certain aspects. For example, Mastering the Mysterious allows me to specialize in mining unusual deposits, such as those touched by ominous forces. This is similar to the elemental deposits from before, and this allows you to farm the various types of special nodes. We'll talk about that shortly. Then you get mining fundamentals, which will just increase your natural gathering speed and quality of your baseline materials and minerals. And then basically this will give you an advantage in terms of gaining more ore overall of just general ore deposits. So each has their own merit, and each one will require you to invest knowledge into it, which is pretty straightforward. forward. So once you get to 25, choose a specialization that suits you, obviously to each their own, and then from there you're going to invest points. Now investing points is pretty simple. As you can see here, for every point we invest, we will start to fill up the bar. When we hit a smaller node, that node will apply an additional bonus to our actual mining situation. So as you can see, as we upgrade, the nodes continue to improve and we start to get more and more access. Upon 20, 40, and 60, we will gain access to a subnode in that genre. So as you can see here, if we upgrade to 20, that will give us access to either of the subnodes. So we can choose to specialize in either seams or rich deposits. By choosing this and learning your sub-specialization, you unlock a further section as well. And you can then further apply knowledge. This here will also apply further bonuses to your character. Now, obviously understanding specializations is one thing, but there are a couple of things you need to know. Firstly, when it comes to node farming, you need to be able to differentiate between standard nodes and special nodes. Now, most standard nodes come in two types. You get normal nodes and you get rich nodes. Normal nodes just drop a semi-decent deposit of material. But then you also get rich nodes or special nodes. These will be designated on your minimap by a special little marker over them. So as you can see here, I have kind of like these traditional, 3 yellow little dots that indicates a rich or a normal node. Now, if you see a glowing one, or I guess one that is kind of glittering, and I'm hoping to find one here, that will indicate that it is a special node. Now, special nodes are important to identify because they drop rare materials that you'll need for certain crafting purposes. So it is important to balance a whole bunch of processes to obtain essentially as much rare nodes as possible. There we go, perfect. So as you can see here, we have this rare node here. So this in this situation is a easy mine, which is an explosive one, which is very thrilling. And basically this special node here gives you obviously a reward, but some of them are different effects. But basically you want to try and farm as many as you can while you are gathering. So in terms of gaining knowledge for gathering nodes or gathering professions, it's very important to understand that there's only very few ways to gain knowledge when it comes to your gathering professions. So for most of them, for the first time you farm a different type of material, whether it's a rare material or node, a lot of the times that will give you a knowledge point. So that will give you access to a knowledge point that you can then spend obviously on your specialization. There we go. But that's not the only way you can gain knowledge. So one of the other incredibly good ways of gaining knowledge is going to be your different, as you can see there, I got my first bit of knowledge for ironing a webbed a webbed claw. But as you can see here on the map as well, you can find that there are special treasures that will pop up, and these treasures contain different various bits of knowledge for you and your characters. So for example, if I come here and I find this little earthen miner's gavel, this will give me a good old earthen mining gavel, which will give me 3 knowledge. So the treasures are very important. The add-on I have here is Handy Notes. It's just great for finding all of these. And you can find all these little markers here. Anything with the hammer indicates that they are a gathering profession for you, and it's a great way to quickly gather yourself a ton of knowledge. But that's not the only way for you to be able to obtain knowledge. So one of the main ways to get knowledge is going to be speaking to weekly profession quests. So essentially how this works is you go to your trainer. So there is a trainer inside Donegal for your respective profession. Once you go to that trainer, you have to be rank 25 in the profession, which is very, very important. Once you are there, you are then able to take a weekly quest from that profession trainer. So as you can see here, I can come to Kayla Clayhoof and I can start to do weekly quests to increase my knowledge. This is obviously for jewel crafting, but you can also do this for gathering as well. So it's very, very important to do this and get yourself some good knowledge overall. The last thing you really need to know about your gathering professions is that you can have these substats and secondary items that can really improve your performance with your gathering professions. So if you go to your mining and you open it up, or your mining journal, you will see that there are slots here for profession accessories. Now, by equipping profession accessories, you can increase either your mining skill or secondary stats that you have for your profession. And this is very important because it enables you to just have a much easier time when it comes to, farming nodes or pulling rare materials or increasing your overall skills. It's just a very, very, very important part of the process. Now, these secondary profession items can be purchased off of the auction house, but it's important to understand as well what the three main substats are when it comes to your gathering profession. So you have finesse, deftness, and perception. So finesse gives you a percentage chance to gather more of the primary regent found. Deftness increases your gathering speed, and perception increases your ability to spot rare reagents while gathering. Basically, what this does is this gives you essentially an increased percentage. Your random knowledge drops per every single node that you farm. So it's very, very important to do this. With all of this, you should understand gathering to a sufficient point to be successful in it. The reason why understanding gathering is so important is because if you truly want to master your professions without paying a lot of money, you're going to want to gather, and it's important that you understand the necessities of gathering. As you can see here, there is my weekly quest, which is obviously great, and you can then deliver that quest to get yourself a bunch of knowledge, which is really, really awesome. So now that we understand gathering, we need to understand crafting. And crafting is very similar to gathering. So much like gathering, crafting requires you to be rank 25 before you can unlock specializations. As you can see here, I have not unlocked specializations yet for my jewel crafting, so I will need to get to rank 25 to do so. How your specializations works is very much similar to how it always has. So as you craft different types of materials, for example here, you can see that we're crafting this. The different rankings or the different little indicators here will indicate how much skill you get for that craft. So there's a low chance of getting a skill. Here, if I'm to craft this, there is a medium chance or high chance with yellow, and then there is a guaranteed 2 times if you gain, obviously, the oranges, which is usually left for new recipes of a higher level of difficulty. So that's that. Now once you hit rank 25, that's when you'll unlock specializations, which are very important. Specializations are obviously super important for a lot of reasons. Much akin to the gathering professions, specializations are really, really important because they enable you to, again, improve certain aspects of your various crafting. It is especially relevant for things like if you're a armorer, you will specialize in being able to make things like chest plates, it's also very important as it will unlock certain recipes for you. A great example of this is that if I look at the gem cutting in terms of the jewel crafting tree, I can see that basically this allows me to specialize in certain types of gems that players may use to augment their stats in their gear. So obviously I could push for certain types of gems. Much like under jewel crafting, you'll find that they specialize in terms of crafting amulets. So crafting amulets, rings, trinkets, etc. And then of course you have shaping. Shaping in terms of jewel crafting deals predominantly with the crafting of reagents that you might use for other crafts. Now each one has their own merits, and you should now find it a lot easier to fill out every specialization tree than you have before. But what is crucial to your specialization tree is obviously knowledge. Now knowledge is obtained through basically a whole ton of different methods. So there's like a ton of different methods for obtaining knowledge. But to cut a long story short, especially when it comes to crafting gear, obtaining knowledge is predominantly done in a few main ways. So obtaining knowledge is actually fairly simple. There's multiple ways to obtain knowledge. The main way in terms of attaining knowledge for any of the crafting professions is going to be through the work order system, and this is going to be essentially the major method of obtaining knowledge for you as a crafter. So if you go to a work order station, so as you can see here I'm at the jeweler's bench, but if I go to a bench and I look at crafting orders, you have 7 weekly patrons that you can craft for. And this, in terms of the game, is very important because this is enabling players. Before, the market was very capped. Players were struggling a lot to do crafting orders to obtain additional knowledge. The game is now giving you 7 weekly patrons that you can very easily craft for. And by doing these you obtain a little bit of gold, yes, but the main reward is obviously knowledge. So as you can see, each and every single one pays out knowledge. This gives you 14 knowledge per craft. On top of that as well, if you are doing a first time craft, which is one of the other ways to obtain knowledge, you will get a knowledge bonus as well. And then on top of all of that, the other way to obtain points is by finding treasures. Now there's lots of treasures, lots and lots and lots of treasures, but these treasures can be found around the maps. I'm using an add-on called Handy Notes, which I've referenced earlier, and these treasures will give you 3 knowledge for your profession as well. But your main method, is going to be patrons. Patrons are going to be a huge method of obtaining knowledge for you as a character. Like, without a doubt, they're going to be your number one method. One of the other few ways to get yourself knowledge is actually through the various renown systems. So at certain points, the various factions will also give you profession knowledge, which you can go and obtain from the vendor for that region, and this will also give you a boost to your overall profession knowledge. So you know how to get knowledge, and you kind of know how to upgrade your skill, but you also need to be able to increase the amount of recipes you have. A crucial difference between gathering and crafting is recipes. And recipes don't just come from the main craft vendor. A lot of recipes actually come from various vendors throughout the game. And for example, with jewel crafting, some of them are reputation locked, some of them are drops from different vendors, some of them are obtained through your various specializations. So if you look at jewel crafting, if you go to specializations, if you look at shaping, you go down to, I believe it is glasswork, you will get a recipe for elemental focusing lens upon maxing out glasswork. So you get a whole bunch of different stuff, basically dependent on your different specializations, vendors, renowns, etc. So it's a lot of different ways to obtain recipes. You need to do a little bit of work into finding out which ones are the best for what section you want to be in. The majority of them, though, will come from your vendors for crafting, and of course will come from your acuity vendor. So being able to trade in for your acuity vendor, and being able to obviously get yourself a whole bunch of really good gear from the artisan vendors. So you can see here, artisan's acuity can be used to purchase not only knowledge, which is great as well, but as well you can also get, you know, recipes. So these are very important as well. So let's talk about the actual crafting process, because now you know about getting knowledge, now you know about, you know, grabbing yourself some recipes. What about actual crafting? So firstly, it's important to understand, as mentioned previously, that the quality of the materials that you use is going to affect the success rate of your performance. So for example, if I use higher grade materials here, I will increase the overall chance of me creating a higher quality item at the end. There are also finishing reagents which you can apply, which will do a lot of different things. For example, some of them will basically increase your chance to get skill points, some increase your ability to save on materials, some increase your ability to craft multiple items, and some will just increase your finishing effects as well. So there's lots of different side reagents that you can do, and especially depending on the item that you make. For example, if you want to make you know, a ring, for example, or a neck piece, there's different aspects that players can integrate: optional reagents, adding embellishments, customizing secondary stats. You can get very intense with a lot of the aspects of customizations, and I think it's very important that you understand that when you are crafting, it's good to invest time into crafting higher quality reagents, especially if you're crafting gear, which is very important. Another aspect is the sparks system. So you need to be able to have sparks to be able to craft higher level gear, and this becomes a lot more relevant later on, as obviously we get these subsequent sparks to constantly retrain and re-upgrade your gear. Gear pieces can be re-upgraded, which is part of the aspect of them, recrafting your equipment, and this allows you to essentially improve your gear after it has been made. So crafting gear is very important, and a very important process of this is also concentration. So you can actually elect to use concentration whenever. Concentration is a stat that basically slowly regenerates and is added in when you make new items. It's just a free stat that enables you to provide a little boost to whatever you're crafting. Now the amount of concentration that is used changes per item and recipe that you're doing. So yeah, the more concentration you use, the essentially like harder the recipe probably is at a baseline. But it is a great way to provide a little bit of a bonus to yourself in terms of your overall like crafting process. And then finally, obviously the last bonus that you can get for crafting realistically is going to be the side gear. So you have secondary profession accessories for tools and accessories. You have 2 slots for accessories and a slot for tools. These can do anything from increase your baseline skill to increase your secondary stats of your profession as well. And it's important to understand for your profession what your secondary stats do. So especially when it comes to crafting, ingenuity is very important. Ingenuity basically gives you a chance to refund concentration spent. This can help you if you're doing some mass crafting and want to use concentration to create higher quality mats. Resourcefulness, is basically a flat percentage to apply a small reduction in the resources used and to refund some of the resources used. Multi-crafting, or the multi-craft stat, which you don't see here, is something that can be added on from professions and from different types of finishing accessories. And multi-crafting essentially allows you to basically proc additional items. Now, this doesn't work for things like gear. It only works if you're creating stackable items, but it's something that's quite important for things like alchemists and inscription users. And then finally, crafting speed, which of course is something that increases your overall crafting speed, which is mainly for saving time, but just isn't something really super noticeable. You can craft these pieces, but you can also buy them off the auction house, depending on obviously where you are as a character. And then the last thing to mention is obviously artisan security. So artisan security is a resource basically, and a reagent that you can use to craft certain finishing reagents for yourself, as well as also to buy items from the various vendors, as you saw a little bit earlier. Acuity is obtained from mainly completing weeklies and also from doing your patron orders. So acuity, as you can see here, drops from certain orders and can be slowly added in basically as you fill up here. So getting acuity isn't too hard. As you fulfill more crafting work orders, you'll obtain more, and you can also get some from just random crafts, etc. But generally speaking, the best way is going to be work orders. And as that should cover everything you need to know about gathering, crafting, etc. Hopefully it's enough to get you guys going. But yeah, if you need any more help, let me know. Otherwise, I hope to see you guys in the next one. Wishing you all the best of luck for your crafting and gathering. And if there's anything you think we missed or I missed, let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, bye.